Last week, my 14-year-old son James came home and said, "Dad, my friends are buying Bitcoin. Can I buy some too?" There, sitting at the kitchen table, I thought to myself, this kid, whose father is the CEO of the world's second-largest asset management firm, managing $9.3 trillion, is still getting investment advice from TikTok. So we're clearly not talking enough about money. That evening, my wife Susan and I made a decision. We could no longer say, "They'll learn when they're older." Because you know what they'll learn when they're older. Credit card debt, student loans, and "I wish I had known this sooner," regret. That night, I sat down. From my 50-year career, from the wisdom my father brought from Tanzania, from what I learned from John Bogle, I distilled 5 lessons. Simple but powerful. Boring but life-saving. And today, I'm going to share those 5 lessons with you. But first, let me tell you this. These lessons aren't just for kids. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you've never heard these lessons, today is your opportunity too. Because when it comes to financial education, it's never too late. There's only never starting. Let's begin. I'm Salim Ramji. I'm the CEO of Vanguard. But more importantly, I'm a father of 2. James is 14, Michael is 11. And let me tell you something. Presenting to the world's largest institutional investors is much easier than explaining money management to your children. Because institutional investors understand spreadsheets. They calculate risks. They think rationally. But kids, they operate on emotion. They want things now. They compare themselves to friends. And if you don't lay the right foundation, they'll reach adulthood with deficient financial decision-making skills. Now, some of you might think, "Salim, you're a wealthy CEO. Your kids have everything. How hard can it be to teach them money management?" And that's exactly where you'd be wrong. Growing up in a wealthy family doesn't make learning money management easier. It makes it harder. Because kids don't see where money comes from. They don't understand the value of effort, sacrifice, discipline. When everything is readily available, the concepts of earning and saving become much harder to grasp. When my father immigrated from Tanzania to Canada, he had $100 in his pocket. He knew the value of every single dollar, because every dollar represented hours of work. When I was young, he taught me to work in his store. I stocked shelves. I stood at the register. I served customers. And that experience taught me that money isn't just a number. It taught me there's labor behind money. Now my children are growing up in a different world. They live in New York. They go to private school. Our home is comfortable. We take vacations. And that's wonderful. I want that life for them. But at the same time, I want them to learn the lessons my father taught me. The value of money, how it's earned, how it's preserved, and most importantly, how it's used. That's why, after that Bitcoin conversation, my wife and I sat down and made a plan. 5 core lessons, each to be taught at different ages, each to last a lifetime. Today, I'm going to share those 5 lessons with you. But remember, these aren't definitive recommendations. These are approaches that work in my family. You can adapt them to your own situation. If you're ready, let's begin. First lesson, saving. Invest in your future. Now, how do you teach this to your children? Some families use the piggy bank method. It's a nice method, but it's not enough. Because a piggy bank just says, save money. But it doesn't answer the question, why should I save? We used a different system at home, the 3-jar system. We gave James and Michael 3 jars, each with a label. 1. Spending. Money you can use this week too. Saving, for something big like a bicycle or a game console. 3. investing. For your future, college first car. Every week, when they get their allowance, they divide it among the 3 jars. Initially, the ratios were simple: 50% spending, 30% saving, 20% investing. But over time, we gave them choice. Do you want to save more this week? Then reduce your spending ratio. And you know what happened? For the first 2 months, they put everything in the spending jar. Normal. Kids want immediate gratification. But then Michael wanted something. A new Lego set. $120. I looked at him and said, "Great. How many weeks do you need to save?" He calculated, 12 weeks. 12 weeks, he said. That's so long. Yes, I said. But if you put 50% into your savings jar every week, you can get it in 6 weeks. And that's when the light bulb went on. Saving equals freedom. The more you save, the faster you reach what you want. And 6 weeks later, when he bought that Lego set with his own saved money, I'll never forget the look on his face. Pride, achievement, satisfaction. If I had given it to him as a gift, he wouldn't have felt the same way. But because he earned it with his own effort, that Lego was so much more valuable. That's the power of saving. Now, how does this apply for adults? Same principle, but different numbers. If you're earning $5,000 monthly, 50% essential expenses, rent, bills, food, equals $2,500, 30% lifestyle, entertainment, hobbies, equals $1,500 times 20%. Future, retirement, emergency fund, equals $1,000. And you never, ever touch that 20% investment portion. This is invisible money. As soon as it enters your account, it automatically goes to a separate account. You don't see it. You can't spend it. And 20 years later, that 20% small deduction turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's the first lesson. Saving isn't a sacrifice. It's an investment in your future. Second lesson, earning. Money isn't free. Many children think money grows on trees. Dad works, money comes, mum goes shopping, buys everything. For kids, money is infinite and free. This is a dangerous misconception. And if you don't correct it, your children will fall into the debt trap as adults. They'll use credit cards but can't pay them off because they don't understand where money comes from. We solve this at home like this. Allowance is tied to responsibilities. James and Michael don't get money just for existing. They have chores at home. Clean their rooms, empty the dishwasher, take out the trash, walk our dog, and if they don't do their chores, they don't get that week's allowance. Initially, they resisted a lot. But Dad, my friends get money without doing anything. And I said, maybe so, but let's see if they're saying the same thing when they're 30. Because life doesn't give free money. In the business world, if you create value, you're rewarded. If you don't create value, you lose your job. And is it better to learn this lesson at 10 or at 30? But caution, if you use this system poorly, your children become money mercenaries. Dad, will you give me $5 if I set the table? No, not like that. Basic chores equals basic allowance. Extra chores equals extra earnings. For example, cleaning your room equals basic chore, already included in allowance. Cleaning the garage equals extra chore, extra $10. This way, children learn. Basic responsibilities are free, part of being family. But if you create extra value, you earn extra. And this is also the principle of the real business world. If you do your job well, you get your salary. But if you do it extraordinarily, you get bonuses. You get promoted. How does this apply for adults? Simple. Ask yourself, Am I creating value or just spending time? Think about your work hours. How many hours are you actually productive? Because I've noticed this. Many people in a 10-hour workday only create real value for 3 hours. The remaining 7 hours, meetings, emails, distractions. If you can convert those 7 hours to value creation too, your income multiplies. That's the second lesson. Money isn't free. It comes in exchange for value creation. Third lesson, patience. The magic of compound interest. Now this is the hardest lesson to explain to young children, because children want now. Future is abstract to them, but if you don't teach this lesson, they'll fall into the instant gratification trap as adults. Credit card debt, unnecessary shopping, luxury consumption, all the price of satisfying now. We taught this like this: the marshmallow experiment, new version. You may have heard of it. The classic psychology experiment. You give a child 1 marshmallow and say, if you wait 15 minutes, you'll get 2 marshmallows. Some children wait, some eat it immediately, and research shows those who wait become more successful in life. We did this with money. I told James, I'll give you $20, but if you wait 1 month, I'll give you $25. He thought about it. But Dad, I want it now. I know, I said, but think about it. 1 month from now, you'll have 25% more money without doing any work. How is that possible? And that's when I explained the concept of compound interest to him. In simple terms, look, I'm putting this $20 somewhere. That place gives me 5% return every month. So after 1 month, it becomes $21, then $22.05, then $23.15. And it continues like that. But you're giving me $25. That's more. Yes, because I'm giving you a patience reward. In real life too. If you keep your money invested with patience, time works in your favor. And guess what happened? He waited the first month, got $25. Then he said, Dad, can I wait with this money too? And that's when the lesson was understood. Patience multiplies your money. Now let's look at a larger scale. If you're 25 years old and saving $500 every month, at 35, approximately $77,000, 10 years. At 45, approximately $190,000, 20 years. At 55, approximately $380,000, 30 years. At 65, approximately $680,000, 40 years, $500 monthly. You've invested a total of $240,000, but you have $680,000, $440,000 difference. This is the power of compound interest. And all you did was be patient. That's the third lesson. Patience is the most profitable investment. Fourth lesson, smart spending. The difference between needs and wants. This is the biggest trap of the modern world, because marketing is very good at turning wants into needs. You need this phone because everyone's using it. You need this car because status matters. You need these shoes because you can't fall behind in fashion. No, these aren't needs. These are wants. Need, you can't live without it. Want, you can live without it, but you don't want to. To teach this to my children, I did a shopping exercise. We went to the store. I gave each of them $50. You're going shopping, but you'll only buy what you need. James immediately ran to the toy aisle. I need this Lego set. Why? Because all my friends have it. But can't you live without it? He stopped, thought, I can, but I really want it. then it's a want, not a need. Then Michael stopped at the fruit section. Dad, I need apples because I'm hungry and it's healthy. Correct. That's a need. And that day, their baskets had bread, milk, fruit, vegetables, needs, toys, candy, gum, wants. And I told them, now you'll make a choice. Will you spend your $50 on needs or wants? James spent everything on needs. Michael spent half on needs, half on wants. And when we got home, we asked, so how do you feel now? James, good, because I got important things. Michael, a bit regretful, because I spent $20 on a toy, but played with it for 10 minutes. That's where the lesson was learned. Wants are temporary, needs are permanent. And if you spend too much money on wants, you can't meet your needs. How does this apply for adults? A simple exercise. Look at your expenses from last month. Separate each into these two categories. Need, want, and you'll probably see 30 to 40% of your expenses are actually wants. Now cut that 30 to 40%. Use only 20% of it. The remaining 10 to 20%. Direct it to investment. That's the fourth lesson. Spending wisely isn't spending less. It's spending on the right things. And the final lesson, sharing. Wealth brings responsibility. This is perhaps the most important lesson, because if your children only learn to save, earn, be patient, but don't learn to share, they might become rich, but they won't be happy. My father taught me something when I was young. Money is a tool, not a goal. Money gives you freedom, but the real purpose is what you do with that freedom. I mentioned we use the 3-jar system at home. Actually, there are 4 jars. 1. Spending 2, saving 3, investing 4, giving every week. They put 10% of their allowance into the giving jar. And every 3 months, we decide together where to donate that money. Sometimes to a charity organization, sometimes to a local school, sometimes for hot meals for the homeless. And every time, my children learn something. When you give, you feel richer. Last year, Michael started a charity campaign with his own money. Dad, some kids at our school can't afford lunch. I want to help them. And for 3 months, he saved money from his own giving jar. He collected $150. And with that $150, he provided lunch for 30 kids for a week. I'll never forget the happiness on his face, because he didn't just save money, he changed lives. That's the most beautiful way to use money. At Vanguard, we call it mission-driven investing, meaning you make investments not just for profit, but for impact. Environmentally conscious companies, socially responsible funds, projects that contribute to society. And you know what happens? These types of investments perform better in the long run, because people invest more in companies that create value. That's the 5th lesson. Wealth brings responsibility, and when you share, you become truly wealthy. All right, let me summarize everything. The 5 money lessons I teach my children. 1. Saving. Invest in your future 3-jar system. Spending, saving, investing. 2. Earning. Money isn't free. Allowance for chores. Create value. 3. Patience. The power of compound interest. Those who wait, win. Time multiplies your money. 4. Smart spending. Needs versus wants. Question every expense. Spend on the right things. 5. Sharing. Wealth is responsibility. When you give, you become truly wealthy. These 5 lessons are what I've given my children. But these lessons aren't just for kids. If you're 25, apply these lessons today. If you're 35, it's still not too late. If you're 45, teach them to your children. Because financial education isn't taught in schools. And if we, as parents, don't teach it, no one will. I'm Salim Ramji. I manage $9.3 trillion. But my most important investment is my children's future. And if you apply these 5 lessons from this video, you'll also make the best investment in your children. But please remember, these aren't definitive recommendations. Every family's situation is different. Adapt to your own circumstances. And before making any financial decisions, please consult a licensed advisor. Best of luck. Final reminder: this video is an independent educational production. We are not affiliated with Salim Ramji, Vanguard, or any organization. Content is for educational purposes only. Past performance does not guarantee future returns. Seek professional guidance before investing.